Hi everyone, thank you for having me here today. I'm here to talk to you about the business of diversity and inclusion, how you can all foster inclusive environments. But first, a little bit of background on me, although you've probably heard quite a bit on me already. I am an award-winning leader. I've won awards across Europe, across Asia, and the UK for my services to diversity and inclusion in the tech industry. I'm very, very proud of the work that I have done through the different roles that I have had in industry. I am the Deloitte UK Technology Respect and Inclusion Manager. Now, this role was created specifically for me because of the passion that I have in creating a more reflective industry of the societies that we have today. I oversee and manage the work that we do in Deloitte UK Technology, creating strategies and helping our people bring their whole selves to work. I'm a board-appointed global ambassador at Women Who Code. I've been with Women Who Code for over 5 years, having launched and led their award-winning UK expansion from 0 to over 9,000 members and counting. I've formed partnerships with organizations like Etsy, Facebook, Twitter, and more. And we've really created a strong sense of what that means. Women Who Code provides free technical monthly meetups in all of its locations across 60 cities. We have over 167,000 global members and a presence, like I said, in over 60 cities with a wait list of over 55 cities. We have made a huge impact in the space of technology and what the space of technology looks like and what they sound like and where they come from. Through that work, again, I've had a very strong reputation for the work that I do. I also write for Forbes on the business of diversity and inclusion. I speak at fantastic conferences like this. I am very, very privileged to get to do that. And I hope today that we can work together and understand ways that you can all create even more inclusive environments. I am at @nearshika on Twitter, so if anyone is on Twitter, feel free to tweet me, take pictures, etc. Please be kind. So firstly, the diversity landscape. So diversity, firstly, is not just gender, and that's why my work is very, very focused across the spectrum of what diversity is. So a picture in the first instance, the 72% on average UK digital tech workers are over 35. Now, we have a very strong perception, that digital tech workers are very young, but statistically they're actually a lot higher and a lot older. Now think about the things that we are doing to support those kinds of people. What do people at that age group typically need supported with? Is it flexible working? Is it different ways of attraction, recruitment, and retention? What are those things that we need to do for those kinds of people? But also, why do we have that viewpoint that tech is such a young industry? Is it because it's very innovative, it's very fast-paced, it's very fast-moving? But let's think about why that is. We know that there is a gender bias in technology. There's no denying that. We can see that likely when you walk into most of your offices. I can see it when I walk into my office. It's an industry problem. No one company has figured this out yet. But we are all working in various different ways to increase the gender ratios and the ethnicity ratios within our industries. Only 19% of the digital tech workforce is female. That's staggeringly low. Women in tech are outnumbered 4 to 1. Now again, picture what that looks like. Picture being the only person, every time you walk into a room, every time you're in a meeting, every time you're leading a meeting, every time you go to a conference. What does that feel like? What does it feel like that you're always marginalized or underrepresented in your field? Again, we have similar statistics when it comes to ethnicity. So 15% of the BAME community, which is Black, Asian, and ethnic minorities, are belonging in the tech industry. Again, a very, very small percentage, however, significantly higher than 10% across other UK jobs. Now, I would still say 15% isn't where we need to be, regardless of whether it is higher or lower. We still need a lot of work to do. And again, we need to understand why that is. Why does our industry not reflect the societies that we are in? One of the things I find very interesting is we have this view, especially in the UK, of tech being very young and very focused on the next generation. But specifically, there's only one area of London where the statistics actually back that up. But yet we all have this view that the tech industry has a strong amount of young people. And yes, whilst we do, there are also a lot of people from a different age group. But perhaps we are not supporting them to stay in the way that we need to. When we look at ethnic diversity, it is no shock that the tech industry is predominantly white. And that's an issue, because that means we're not representing people in the way that they need to be represented. We're not listening to all different voices. Many of you here will be creating technology solutions, but are we listening to the different people that it affects as opposed to just the people like ourselves? And that means people like me, but that also means people not like me. So what does diversity actually mean? What does that mean to you? So the definition of diversity is the state of being diverse, which isn't very helpful at all. That doesn't tell me a single thing about what diversity is. Now, a lot of people, when we consider diversity, we consider gender. But do we consider everything else too? We need to consider everything else too. So there is age, religion, gender, sexuality, socioeconomic background, ethnicity, and more. All of these different things that make up a different person and a person with different needs. Now, imagine being the only in the room. Okay, maybe you're the only female in the room. Imagine being the only female of color. Imagine being the only female of color who is from the LGBT+ community. Imagine being those three things and also being from a socioeconomic background that isn't the same as everybody else. That means that you've had to struggle, you've had to work harder to be in that space. That changes how you view yourself as a person. Now, as people who are in positions of leadership, raise your hand if you consider yourself to be either a leader or in a position of leadership. Nobody in this room considers themselves to be. A few people, I would say there's more than that, for sure. The point is, you have the opportunity and the ability to listen to those people that have those different viewpoints, those different needs. We cannot consider diversity to be one kind of person, because that's another type of exclusivity. If we consider, for example, we put one white woman on a panel, that your conference is now diverse. No, it's not. You've done the bare minimum, and that's not diversity. You haven't listened and you haven't understood that there's a hell of a long way to go in that. But we have to do that as leaders. And the only way we can do that is by listening, and by really, really listening and being prepared to hear, you know what I'm doing is wrong. As a leader, we are typically the people that speak a lot in meetings, because people are coming to us for expertise. People are coming to us because we have a strong reputation. But what about if we take a back seat and we actually listen to the people around us, surrounding ourselves with people that have different viewpoints, different backgrounds, different insights? Privilege and diversity are incredibly strongly linked. And I know when I say privilege, some people shudder. Some people don't like it. And I would like you to think about why that is, if you're one of those people, why you are maybe even slightly offended of considering that you might be privileged. I am incredibly privileged. Even as a female and a person of color, I was adopted from Sri Lanka at 3 weeks old by an Irish couple. So I've been raised in the Western world. I've been to university. I am not wealthy, but I am financially stable. I have a name that when you see my name and you hear my accent, you can't tell that I am a person of color. That's privilege. The fact that I'm standing on the stage right now is privilege. The fact that I do this work is privilege. The fact that people listen to me is privilege. And we have to understand our own privilege to be able to amplify those that simply don't have it. That can be an incredibly uncomfortable, it can be daunting process, but really, really think about what privilege is. So we can define privilege as a set of unearned benefits given to people who fit in a specific social group. Every single person here is privileged, including myself, in many, many different ways. And like I said, with diversity, privilege is intersectional too. Even as someone who is incredibly underrepresented and marginalized in this industry, I still have a lot of privilege that I need to use to amplify those that don't have it. And when we start to think about what that means, when we start to think about, why do I have this? Yes, we've all worked incredibly hard. Nobody is disputing that. But we still have to understand that there are things that have played a positive role in our favor that may not have played that role in other people's favor. And again, as myself, as my own example in this, had I not been adopted, there is no way I would be standing here right now. There is no way I would work for a Big Four, that I would write for Forbes, that I would do all of these great things. That's privilege, that I'm able to do this now. But what am I doing to change that for other people that don't have that background, that don't have the education that I've been able to get, that don't have the security that I have? Think about that for yourself too. How privileged are you? What are the things that make you privileged? Is it that you are white? Is it that you are male? Is it that you are straight? Is it that you are financially stable? Is it that if something happened in your life, that you would have people around you to support you? Think about those different things. And think about the people that don't have that and what that feels like. Think about how difficult it has been for those people to get to either the same level as you or above you with all of those things in mind. So, like I said, there is a business to embracing diversity. Yes, we need to do it because we need our industries to reflect society, and we need to create whole solutions. We need to create well-rounded solutions. But there are statistics that back up the reasons to do that too. One female on a board of a business can reduce risk of bankruptcy by 20%. Nobody likes risk in business. That's common sense. Nobody wants to put something out with the 20% risk of it failing and flopping, okay? Why does that make that change? Now, the point is, we create solutions. If we create solutions with one viewpoint in mind, whether that is all one type of demographic or one stream of people, we are not considering things outside of that. We're not listening to voices or listening to inputs that are incredibly important, that could help us create a better solution. Companies in the top quartile for gender diversity outperform competitors by 15%. 15% is a very, very big statistic to outperform your competitor, okay? Everybody wants that. Those in the top quartile for ethnic diversity outperform their competitors by 35%, okay? And again, this is because we are listening to voices, we are actioning voices, we are understanding the needs of the majority of society, not just one demographic. And that's very, very important in technology, because technology is innovative, it is changing, it is creating things that don't exist yet, or making the things that do exist better. But how can we do that if we only ever listen to our own viewpoint? Now, I say that as well as a leader. If I am in meetings and I'm creating a strategy or I'm creating something new, if I'm the only person talking all of the time, I'm only ever hearing my own viewpoint. I'm not learning anything. I'm not reworking what I might be thinking. And that's when it's on me to take a step back and ask someone else what they think. And really, really listen. Don't listen superficially, but genuinely listening for the greater good, for the better solution, for these more inclusive environments. Companies reporting above average diversity on management teams, so that's sort of manager, VP level and above, reported 19% higher innovation revenue than those below. And again, innovation revenue is incredibly important in technology because we are all about innovation. We are all about being creative, about forming something before somebody else does, or in a better way. Why is that important? Why are we seeing that those statistics are showing that? Because those kinds of environments allow challenging discussions. They don't allow us to rest on our laurels and assume that what we are doing is correct. They mean that we have to sit back and think, well, actually, Sheree has said this. Maybe I need to consider that. And have a discussion, have a well-rounded discussion, and really, really listening to what that means. Likewise, when employees think their organization is committed to and supportive of diversity, and they feel included in those discussions, innovation revenue increases by 83%. Now, we talk about culture a lot in diversity and inclusion and in the tech industry and the wider industry as a whole. Culture is incredibly important. People want to work with people, not for people. When you involve people in those conversations, when you make them feel heard, that's when this innovation revenue increases, because people understand that you care. People understand that you are listening, that you are actioning things that need to change. And that's one of those things that is incredibly powerful here, that we all have that ability, whether you're a leader, and I certainly believe that there are more people that consider themselves to be leaders or in positions of leadership than the people that raise their hands here. So there's lots of things we can do to create these more inclusive environments. Some of them are very, very big things. Some of them are very, very small things. But they all equally have a very, very strong impact. And now I'm sure there are lots of people doing all of these things already. But I think it's always good to have a discussion on how you personally can create a more inclusive environment. So become a sponsor. Sponsoring someone from an underrepresented community to aid career growth and increase company retention. Sponsoring is very, very different to mentoring. Mentoring is about providing advice and guidance, whereas sponsorship is about directly advocating for someone's career trajectory, providing them visibility when needed, credit in meetings that they may not be in, and probably most importantly, constructive feedback on how they get to the next level. Statistically, it is shown that people that have managers that are male feel less comfortable in giving constructive feedback to underrepresented groups because they feel like they may be offending someone. And I appreciate that viewpoint. But the point is, people cannot grow without constructive feedback. If you don't tell me what I'm doing well, but also what I can do better and how I can develop that skill set, I'll never get to the next level. And as leaders, you have all of this power to change that. You have all of this power to guide people and really, really change how they get to the next level. Call out inappropriate behavior. Now, this might seem like a no-brainer. It might seem like, of course you would call out inappropriate behavior. Why wouldn't I? But it's not common sense. And we can see in the generation that we're in, where women specifically, and men who have had harassment, sexual harassment and abuse and worked through the Me Too era, that people are getting more comfortable calling this out. But let's also consider ourselves as people who are privileged and people that are in positions of leadership. When we see something inappropriate, that we can call it out on behalf of somebody else if they are not able to. We are able to take that responsibility and take it in a way that means that that person doesn't feel like they are going to be penalized or viewed differently because they are having to speak about it. Even something as small as, even something as simple as when you see someone making a joke that might offend someone, saying, well, hold on, I don't think that's okay, even if it's not about directly insulting you. Thinking about those different things that we can do, and they are very, very impactful things, because again, I ask you to consider what it feels like to be the only in the room. When you walk into a room and perhaps you're the only female and someone makes a sexist joke, you're the only person of color and someone makes a joke about being perhaps black. Think about what that feels like, and you have to sit and consider, do I say something and be that person who complains again, or do I just sit and be quiet? If you're not a part of that demographic, you have the ability to call that out. Likewise, for the LGBT plus community, really, really considering how you can ally with those networks and ally with those people that really, really you should be considering, because they are part of your organization, they're part of your society. Tasking all employees with getting involved with diversity and inclusion tasks. Now, this means that whenever you are involved in a diversity and inclusion strategy, that you are still incredibly important, and it is not on you to delegate it to someone who is underrepresented already. Now, we are seeing that a lot of people involved in this process, we need to include all of our leaders. Our leaders need to be directly involved. We need to have executive buy-in, because otherwise strategies don't succeed. Now, again, we can see that whenever we look at the demographic of leadership, it is typically in one stream of demographic. If we're not engaging those people, then how can we expect to shift a culture without engaging the majority? So you are incredibly important in this. That means you shouldn't be delegating tasks to underrepresented people. You should be getting involved, ensuring discussions are happening, and ensuring you're lending your leadership in a way that is really, really impactful and really, really important. Be an ally. Now, you can't be an ally simply through words. This is about actions. And this is really about listening, like I said previously. Listening to the people around you, whether that is challenging or not, and adapting your thought process. And that's something that isn't easy. It can be incredibly uncomfortable to hear that what you are doing isn't the best, that it isn't correct, that it is entirely not what somebody needs. But you really, really have to get comfortable with doing that and become comfortable being uncomfortable. It's not nice to be told, well, actually, what you've created doesn't suit or it's not good enough. But we have to, as leaders, however many leaders we have here, or people that are in teams, we have to be comfortable understanding that we aren't always correct. But we can certainly listen and rework what we're doing and listen to what people need. Diversity and inclusion strategy should never be created without listening to the people it directly affects. And we have the ability to do that. Something as simple as listening and actioning what people are saying. Really, really strong allyship. Putting yourself out there for people is an incredibly powerful tool in changing the culture in the tech industry as a whole. Using inclusive language. Now, this might sound, again, like common sense, but being aware of gendered terms, again, creating more inclusive environments. Something as simple as putting pronouns in your email signature or on your Twitter bio. That might be 7 characters as a whole, but that might make someone else from the LGBT plus community feel a lot more included and a lot more comfortable in your environment. I, for example, refer to my partner as my partner instead of husband, because again, in social circles, in networking opportunities, if there are people that are from the LGBT plus community, that may make them feel more comfortable in sharing stuff about their own lives, their own stories. And again, these are very, very small changes. Is it really, really a big ask for you to change something as small as that one word that can have a huge impact on how people feel when they are around you, how they feel heard, how they feel like they can talk to you? And again, if we're in positions of leadership, we have to be here. We have to be here for people that aren't like us. We have to be here for people that are from all different backgrounds to be able to come to us, because otherwise that's how we've gotten to where we're at, and that's why we're in the position that we're at. Rolling out unconscious bias training regularly in your organization. Now, unconscious bias training once is of no use. Okay, suddenly your unconscious bias doesn't disappear once you've had the conversation once. That's not how it works. Okay, and this is something that's very important, where we have to regularly challenge ourselves. We have to regularly understand our own either unconscious or unchecked bias. And we all have it. I have it as well. I regularly make mistakes, even as someone who is a female in the tech industry in leadership with a computer science degree. When my partner told me that he had a new UX lead, and I was like, oh, what's his name? And he was like, no, it's a woman. And I made that assumption. And again, I have to call that out on myself. I have to understand that even myself, I still make those mistakes. But really, really thinking about what your own unconscious bias is. And that exists in every single person. And yes, we could maybe like to sit here and say that none of us are biased. We are straight down the line, but that's not how it works, and that's not how people work. And by having those discussions, by understanding our bias, by having the discussions with different people in breakout sessions, reporting back to each other, understanding, why is it that I have this bias? Is there something I can do to change that? What is the impact of me having that bias? Do I always promote people that look like me or that are from the same background as me? Does that mean that people that don't have that background never rise up the ranks? If I am a leader and I'm involved in interviewing processes and management and recruitment, you have a big role to play in understanding your own bias to ensure that it does not affect the candidate pool coming into your organization. Trying different recruitment methods. Again, perhaps that sounds like common sense to you, but if we consistently go to the same recruiters, the same pool of talent all of the time, then we're never diversifying that talent. Consider partnering with other organizations that are focusing in on different pools of talent. Now, that might be organizations like Women Who Code, or People of Color in Tech, or all of the other organizations out there that have a huge community of people trying to find work with very, very strong skill sets. This is not about lowering the bar. This is simply about opening up the opportunities. Talent is in every single facet of society, but opportunity is not. And if we do not reach those people, if we are consistently going to the same pools, the same recruitment methods, the same recruiters all of the time, then we are never reaching those people and they never get a chance. Is that fair? Does that genuinely sound fair to you? Because it really doesn't sound fair to me. It doesn't sound acceptable that people that perhaps are from a certain socioeconomic background or have been to, for example, a Russell Group university in the UK get ahead of those that haven't simply because of one tag. That's not acceptable. Recognizing privilege and using yours to amplify the voices around you. Now, we can all do that. We are all, I would say, the fact that we're in this room right now is a privilege. You're able to come here, you're able to pay whatever it is to attend, or your company is able to support you to come along. Maybe you're also a speaker, so you have the opportunity to share your thoughts with X amount of people. Really consider those that don't have that ability. Even something as small as those who would perhaps like to break into the industry, would like to join a development class or attend a conference like this, but can't afford to. Does that mean those people don't deserve the opportunity? Of course it doesn't. But what can we do to change that? What can we do as leaders? What can we do as figureheads in our organization, perhaps, as managers, even as team members? What can we do to try and change that viewpoint? Again, considering being the only person in the room, if you were always the only person in the room, would you want to go into that room repeatedly? Probably not, because it is an incredibly emotionally draining task. But what can we do to make those people feel more comfortable? What can you do to ensure that we are not letting our bias play into people's roles, people's tasks when they're in meetings? For example, if you're getting the same person to take notes all of the time, or the same person to book the meeting rooms, or liaise with buying gifts on birthdays, small things like that that make people feel like lesser. But why do you choose those people? Think about that. Think about the things that we're doing and how we can change that. Following an array of voices. Now, I think something that's incredibly important is that we listen to all different voices And there's so many fantastic ways to do that now that are at the click of a button. So for example, if you're on Twitter, you could follow someone on the other side of the world with one click, and that allows your perspective to wholly change. Like I said, we don't get growth from only listening to people that are the same as us. And I identify with that as well. A lot of my work is surrounding myself with people that are entirely different to me so I can listen and understand perspectives, and then try and create something that brings those people together, that creates that sense of belonging. Business is no different than that. If you're developing a solution, you'll have user workshops with your client, you'll have your functional lead and your business analyst, you'll move that through, you'll create some sort of theme that meets a theme of the client's needs. You'll not meet every single client's specific user needs because it'll be too many. You'll bring that back to the client, you'll ask them if it works, if that's what they want. Maybe they say no and you rework it, maybe they say yes and you move into development, okay? And if you're using Agile, then it's this constant rework process. Your diversity and inclusion strategy should be exactly the same. You cannot assume that what you create is correct, because you simply wouldn't do that in business, so you shouldn't be doing it with this either. And this is incredibly important, because this is about how your people work with each other, how they work with your clients, how they work with you. It is intrinsic to how you do business. And that's why this is so important. That's why this is one of the first sessions you hear, because it is so important to consider these things. And by following an array of voices, it opens up your mindset. I learned so much from hearing people that are completely the opposite to me, simply by listening and trying to understand and asking if I don't understand, because that's fine too. Getting involved in the community, okay? We have lots of fantastic communities globally and in Iceland and across the UK and Europe that really allow you to get involved in changing those dials, whether it is getting involved with a specific gender-focused group, group focusing on people of color, or the LGBT community, or et cetera, et cetera. Get involved with those organizations, partner, host meetups with them, bring people in to see what it's like to work in your place, in your organization, in your company. Put your money involved with this. Go and spend the time and showcase that you genuinely care, that you're hosting a hackathon with XYZ organization because you really want to help people in that demographic have the same benefits that we have the same opportunities that we have. And again, no one is saying that no one has worked incredibly hard. We have all worked incredibly hard. But what that means, it's now our opportunity, the fact that we have a seat in this room right now to pass that on. If you have any questions after, thank you for your time. You can reach me at Neerashika or at @Atcheson@Deloitte.co.uk. Thank you very much for your time.